Hi, Bridgette Griffiths here from Team Griffiths & Gunn at Your Address Real Estate. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Guy Gibbons from Bennett Carroll Solicitors. Now Guy has over 35 years experience and also is the trainer for the REIQ, so certainly someone we love to go to when we have any tricky questions regarding contracts or anything real estate related. Welcome, Guy. Now, Guy, we've heard some stories recently in the news. People have gone forward, made an offer on a property, that offer's been accepted, gone to contract, and at the last minute there's been some delays with settlement. Now, we've also heard people have not only lost their deposit, but also the house they had, plans of moving into. So how can that happen in Queensland, Guy?
Oh, it's very common, and it's driven by the time frames in the contract. So,
right.
The first thing that you need to do when you're considering an offer, yes, you need to make the offer acceptable and exciting and enticing to the seller, but you've also got to make sure that you can meet all the deadlines in it.
Right.
There's a little bit of clause at the end of the standard conditions that says time is of the essence. Everybody knows that expression. A lot of people don't know what that actually means.
Okay.
What that means is the deadlines in the contract are real, hard, fast deadlines, and if you miss one, the other side gets some rights and you lose some rights. So you've got to meet those deadlines. The main ones are building, pest, finance, settlement.
Yep.
There might be other conditions. You might have a due diligence condition, you might have something to do with a pool or some other thing that needs to be done before settlement. But if you put very short time frames in there as a buyer, you're running a risk, because if that time frame is missed, the seller can say, see you later.
Okay.
It's worse still if the settlement date is the date that you're in trouble with.
Right.
Most often that's because there's a problem with the financier. The problems with the financiers underlie most of these dramas.
Yeah, because as agents we get asked, well, we hear often of buyers needing a little bit more time and asking for an extension to be granted with just finance approvals.
Yes, finance approval and getting your financier able to settle on settlement day.
Right.
They're the two big underlying problems, and financiers now have obviously lots and lots of people applying for finance.
It's a busy market.
And they're understaffed, they're under-talented, and their red tape requirements are now a lot bigger than they were even a year ago.
Right.
So all these things need to get done, and that puts pressure on those deadlines. If you make that deadline really short to entice a seller...
So for example, say like I've got 7-day finance and then I want to settle in 30 days,
yes,
but I'm not quite organised with all my ducks in a row as far as finance goes. Yep. That would be an issue, I'm guessing.
You can take... just to get a valuer out to look at the property for your financier can take way more than 7 days.
Yeah.
So what you're then doing is you're going to the seller saying, please give me more time.
Yeah.
And in a market like this, the seller may say, no.
Sorry, I'll go to the next guy.
I've got backup contracts.
Yeah.
Now, that's bad enough if you miss finance and the seller terminates because you missed that, because
right,
you get your deposit back. If you make your finance and you can't make the settlement date, you can lose that deposit and
right,
the house, because settlement day is settlement day and time is of the essence, and you lose those rights. So if you're a buyer who misses the settlement day, most of the time the seller says, yeah, all right, well, we'll give you some extension.
That's okay, have till tomorrow, we're all okay.
But they don't have to.
Right.
And they can nick your deposit. And if they resell a property at a loss, they can pursue you for the loss.
Wow, so there's actually even further legal
Yeah.
ramifications for not settling on time.
The other thing people don't realise, and this happens in our office a lot, is that I'm buying a property, so I've got a settlement day,
yeah,
but I'm also selling a property, and that person who's buying from me is selling a property.
Another property, yes.
And you can
there's
have a daisy chain of 6, 7, 8 settlements all relied upon each other.
Wow.
So usually we make it work. You'll get interim access to the property. You're standing on the footpath with your removalist.
Going, let me in, let me in.
Yeah, so you get that, and everybody settles the following day,
yeah,
and everything's fine. But it doesn't have to be that way. And the problem might not even be your financier, because if you're 4th or 5th in the daisy chain and the second contract in the daisy chain has a settlement problem,
yeah,
then they all are affected by that. So the main two things I would say to buyers particularly is make sure that you're as organised as you can be. You've got as many things done with your financier as you possibly can,
yep,
because they're the bottleneck these days.
Yep.
The second message is to make sure that your deadlines in your contract are actually makeable and achievable.
Yeah.
There are certainly professional developers or pick and flick merchants, and they will go 7-day building and pest, 7-day finance, 21-day settlement, because they know that that's attractive to a seller, and they will attempt then to creep all of those contracts.
Right,
dates out.
so a little bit.
It's a dangerous game to play these days, where you've got multiple ready buyers, and you've got now in Queensland particularly, it's not uncommon to have a contract fully signed and sitting behind the first one, just in case the first one falls over. So all of these little things are just about being ready, understanding what your contract actually does. A good agent will help you with that. A good agent understands the idea of making your contract attractive, but also understands not putting the entire contract in jeopardy by putting silly things in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all of those things, making sure that you're getting good advice, listening to the agent's recommendation to you. Yes, the agent acts for the seller, but the agent also wants the contract.
We want the deals to go through as well, absolutely.
If the agent says to you, oh look, I really think you want to take advice on this, or maybe we should make that a little bit longer, there's a reason for that. It's not necessarily them trying to mislead you.
Yeah, and I know often that when we are speaking with buyers, we're saying to them, look, can you check with your broker, check with your financier, just to ensure that that is actually attainable, and we can do that within those time frames. So totally understand. As an agent though, Guy, I'm sort of, you're talking and I'm thinking about all the scenarios that we've had in the past and still currently do with multiple contracts and, you know, daisy chains, as you like to call it, which I think is a great term. So as an agent, it really does pay to ask more questions, doesn't it? You know, you want that information at hand. How many contracts are bearing on your settlement taking place, Mr. Buyer, and so forth.
Absolutely. And your conveyancer, if you're using a conveyancing firm that's been around for a while, that's a reasonable size, that's got experienced people, it's not as common as you might think. They will ask these questions during the early days of your contract.
Right.
Because all the conveyancers know each other.
Of course they do,
So they'll speak to their opposite number and say, okay, have you got a simultaneous settlement?
Yeah.
Is there one before that? And we get an understanding of how big this daisy chain is.
Yeah, sure.
We're not entitled to copies of the other contracts, but you get an idea of how strong the situation is.
Yeah.
And it just allows us to try and cater for those scenarios.
Yeah.
If the market was bowling along and it wasn't red hot and buyers were difficult to come by, those extensions they're handed out like lollies. But
now they're not.
No. So you just got to be ready for that. Sellers can also be tripped up by this. There's a document that you need as a seller to send your bank right at the beginning of this process, and some banks are now wanting those 28 days in advance.
Yeah, the mortgage release docs you're referring to. Yeah.
Now, if you don't send that document immediately, your seller will fold its arms and say, we're not ready.
Which will hold up settlement there again.
And even if this is a paper settlement, forget a PEXA electronic settlement, even if this is a paper settlement that involves producing a one-page document, they want 28 days notice to do that.
Wow.
So people think, shouldn't this be able to be done? When I were a lad, when I was actually doing settlements and running around town with cheques, they actually produced that document on site, and if there was a problem with it, somebody would sit down with a typewriter and type one, yes, typewriter, and sign.
Showing your age, Guy.
Not anymore. One of the four majors, all of their releases come out of Adelaide for the whole of Australia, and they want 28 days to send that. So
to produce that.
Silly little things that used to be easy to resolve because of the way the market is now and because of the way the banks are structured, they take a long time, and sellers are often, well not often, sometimes sellers are getting caught with their financiers saying, yes, I know you want to give us a large cheque, we're not ready.
Wow. So the best advice there really is for buyers and sellers, talk to your financiers, talk to your brokers, work out how much time you will need to, you know, either purchase or for the mortgage release when you're selling a property. Guy, thanks so much. That was absolutely wonderful information.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.